devils are getting angry. We're, we're in the final days right now. And these devils, they know it. They are so frustrated and angry. They're coming out more and more against us, man. Don't think you're alone. The attack isn't only on you. You're not alone. They're coming for any person who has a relationship with God. I'm telling you. They really are. Because their days are numbered. They want your time here to be just as short as theirs, if not shorter. They're coming out the windward. They're coming from everywhere, every crack and crevice. They're coming from everywhere right now. Trying to put a stop to God's movement. They're trying so hard, man. I spoke about this before, but you have people who seek attention, and then you have those who seek redemption. And trust me, man, you think they're not out here, but they are. A lot of these people that who are talking about something, majority of them are only speaking about these things because they want attention on themselves. And that's what it's all about for them. They only want the attention on themselves. They want, as a matter of fact, they want more attention on themselves than they want on whatever subject they're speaking on. So whatever they're talking about, they don't want you to be just in awe and amazed about what they're talking about. They want you to be in awe and amazement because of them, the person. Again, and a lot of times, man, these people are not spiritual. I spoke about this before too. A lot of these people are not spiritual. Because even if they are religious, they will come at you with an approach to things from a rational perspective. They would use logic and reasoning rather than the spiritual aspect of things. Now, why do they do that? Because they clearly don't understand spiritual things. And and some of them simply don't want to. They think none of that stuff is real. But you'll see them going to church every Sunday. But they think spiritual things aren't real. So if you believe in God, that means you believe God isn't real. How can you not believe that God is real, but you're going to these church services? What's the point of doing that? You must believe it on some level, or if you just simply want attention. Like I said before, man, you got a lot of these people out here. They just simply want attention, man. They don't care about anything else. They don't want redemption. They do not want redemption. Why would they need redemption if they have a righteous life already? If they feel like they already have their peace, they have happiness and joy, why would they seek redemption too? They wouldn't feel the need for that. And more often than not, you will see these type of people, they're going after the spiritual people. especially right now. At this time, at this moment in time, they are going after spiritual people in a way like you've never seen, man. They will try to meet up with them, and they will try to bait them into having these conversations on certain subjects, particularly the Most High God. They want to know what's your angle. How do you feel about certain things? Do you actually believe God is real? What about ghosts and spirits? One person even asked me about ghosts before I started laughing. Because that's how you know when somebody doesn't really know what it means to be spiritual. They don't really understand what it means. They think about ghosts and stuff like that. It's pretty funny when you really think about it, man. But yeah, they would try to bait these people into these conversations with them, man. And they hope they haven't, they especially if it gathers an audience, they want an audience first. They gotta have an audience. Because if they feel like they can one-up you and make you look stupid, now those people who are listening to you talk about the spiritual things that might have taken place in your life, now they're listening to this person. That's the hopes that he has anyway. You see, a person who, you got some people out here who had spiritual things happening with them. They have spiritual gifts and talents that they can't speak about with other people. So an intelligent person who has spiritual things going on with them, but they don't fully understand it, they usually would try to keep it to themselves. They don't really talk about it with other people. You know, because they already smart enough to understand that people are going to try to attack them with logic and reasoning. But how can you logically explain what happened to me in my life and you weren't even there? You weren't even there and I was. And their only answer is, well, what you're saying is full of crap and it never happened. So guess what? Even if you get that audience that you want, after making that person who's spiritual feel bad about themselves, or making them, become silent, they don't wish to speak to you anymore, it's not even because you one up them. They already understand that this conversation isn't going anywhere anyway. And the reason why is because the Holy Spirit does not require an explanation. So while you're sitting there talking, this person already figured that out. This is probably someone who already figured that out. So they're not going to want to have much conversation with you anyway. While you're sitting there jabbering on, like I say, an intelligent spiritual person, they're going to say, okay, you know what, man, you got it. You want the attention? Go ahead, have at it. Go ahead and speak to the people. Because he already knows that some of these people, they have spiritual things happening with them. And they probably have their own unique talents and abilities that they don't fully understand yet. So they might want to listen to him speak until he starts tackling on spiritual things. And they're probably not going to want to be listening to that guy talk anymore. Because again, for the exact same reason, how can you logically explain to me what's happening in my life and you were not there? How can you do that? There's no way you can possibly pull that off. Even if you do know things about me, you're obviously stalking me and having people follow me. That's the only way you even really know anything. And even then, you might not have all your facts straight. You don't really understand what's happening. You only think you do. So like I said, once that happens, that audience that he tried to gather, they're going to start to turn away from him whenever he goes to speak about anything spiritual. Because of the things that happen in their own lives, man, every person is not going to believe that he or she is crazy just because you said it. So guess what? That interest in that conversation quickly becomes diminished. Now that person is not really wanting to speak about that subject anymore because he doesn't know what he's talking about anyway. You see how that works? You need to be having that conversation with people you can relate to. Stop specifically targeting the children of God and trying to bait them into some type of argument. You're not going to win ever. You're going to lose every single time, man. And the funny part is that person may not even have to speak. And you will still lose. You cannot explain God's word with logic and reasoning. You just simply cannot. There's no way it's even possible, man. Only a man who practiced hubris would even try. But a thinking man already knows his place. So if you are a thinking man, you will realize you're not as smart as you think you are. Now, let's say hypothetically, you attract a large audience, but it's a lot of people who practices that same free thinking like you do. Because like you said, like the Lord said, broad is the way. And it certainly is. There's going to be a lot of people showing up to do the very same thing that you did. And it's not going to take long for them to figure out how to trump you. The same way you did to this other person, or at least you thought you did. They're going to figure it out. He only needs to be 15, maybe 20 years younger than you, maybe a kid. And he's already speaking like you. He brings more energy to the room because of his youth. Now that crowd that you attracted, they're going to see him instead of you. And you'll be trying to figure out, well, how did that kid manage to pull that off? Everything he said, I said first, and yet they always want to hear him speak. Well, it's a couple of reasons for that, sir. One is called karma, which is spiritual, like I already talked about before. Karma is spiritual, believe it or not. The good Lord says you reap what you sow. So that was what happened. You explained how you did with logic and reasoning, and that kid showed up and did the same thing you did using logic and reasoning. Because if it was anything spiritual, he would have a very hard time imitating what you did, if at all. You cannot logically explain how David slew Goliath with a rock. With just an ordinary stone. But he did. And yet this guy Saul showed up and thought that killing David would be just as simple as stabbing him with his sword. And then people would not want to talk to him about him anymore. Nobody's going to remember him. I guess he thought nobody will remember what David has done. And look at the irony. He thought nobody would remember, and yet David is remembered to this very day. You're going to tell me God isn't real. What happened in the end? Saul was killed by his own sword. So that kid who showed up and trumped you and made you look like a fool in front of all those people, he only did what you did. He killed you with your own sword. That's all you had to do. Use logic and reasoning. How were you able to best him? How were you able to defeat him? I killed him with, I just used the sword. What you mean? So you use the logic and reasoning. That's what Saul planned to do with David. He used logic and reasoning. He thought that simple logic and reasoning was going to help him defeat someone like David. But the one who was defeated in the end was himself. So I tell y'all, brothers and sisters, don't worry about these people, man. Don't let them make you feel bad about yourself, man. Don't let them make you cast doubts on yourself or the Most High God. Don't allow them to do it, man. These people are traveling a broad path and they know it. They see you over there on a narrow path by yourself. You're obviously different. Why are you over there by yourself? Why are you traveling alone? They start asking you a whole bunch of questions, like trying to figure you out. Because this is where everything's at over here. But you over there, ain't nothing over there. And you're by yourself. They're going to call you names. Oh, you must be weird. They start talking crazy to you, man. It's talking crazy about you. But do not let him or her discourage you, yo. Let them do whatever it is that they're doing. You stay on your course. Don't let those people come over there and determine which direction you should be going. Because they don't even know where they're headed. They're only going in that direction because that's where everyone else is. So that kid that shows up to trump you, this is the story of Saul happening all over again. Anyone would tell you history repeats itself because it does. You see the same thing happening again and again. You'll do something that pertains to the spirit, and then you got all these people, they show up trying to do the same thing you did, even better than you. And it wasn't even about being the best or who did it better. It was never about that. The Lord was with you. You were protected. You didn't know that was going to happen. Now people are showing up wanting to kill you. You don't even know these people. That's what makes me so sad about all of this, man. Like, David did what he did to protect Saul's kingdom. It wasn't even his own. And yet, that guy pulled the sword on him. I can't even make this up. That jealous spirit. This is why I be trying to tell people, man. You're saying that spirits aren't real, and yet you carry it. This is why I always tell people, guard and protect your spirit, man. The same way you would guard and protect your human self, your physical body, it's the same way you need to guard and protect your spirit. See, these people, they don't want to follow God's laws because to them, that's just what they are, laws. But he gave you free advice, which is actually all he was doing. He was advising you to protect yourself from spiritual attacks. So you must follow the commandments to the best of your ability. He knows you were born a sinner, but you have to at least acknowledge yourself, man, on a spiritual level. If you're going to guard yourself from these things, because the devil is busy, bro. He working overtime this weekend. I'm telling you, he is working overtime out here. These devils, they be showing up from everywhere, man, trying to attack us. Guard your spirit, yo. Those aren't actual laws. He's teaching you how to protect yourself from the devil's influence. He's not trying to tell you what to do. He gave you free will for a reason. He gave you free will because he wants you to have free will. He wants you to exercise your rights as a human. But that devil will show up and tell you you're going the wrong way. Think about this, man. Seriously, think about what you're doing. Peace.